Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 60. I think by now you know my MO. If it needs refurbishing and it is not upgraded, I'm going to choose the upgrade over the refurbishment because of the cost difference. 3 million more, which is, less than twice the cost of refurbishment. And refurbishment only brings you back to where you were, where an upgrade takes you to the next level. So instead of going back up to a 90% forecast, we're going to finally get the final weather center upgrade, and this is actually going to finally complete the operations facilities entirely, and we definitely have 4.8 million available. Next up is the Belgian Grand Prix, and of course, if you know where Spa falls on the calendar, that means summer break. Game unfortunately does a really poor job of mimicking that portion of real life as you continue to work through the summer break in game. So 25 days means we've got a very solid few weeks coming up here of progress made on those giant research projects. Unfortunately, they are going to take just beyond the Belgian Grand Prix. So after Spa, we will have our trio of research projects that should hopefully bring us back up the grid, because again, that recap for those who haven't watched closely, maybe skip through episodes or skip episodes entirely. The car that was quick at the beginning of the year and getting a lot of strong results, well, it's gotten a lot slower. Now, we managed to win the last race and we managed to get a strong result. We're obviously still competitive, but that was more strategic, that was more timing, that was more the race that we had in the wet and taken advantage. But with the upgrades that are on the way for the car, we had been focusing this season on our weak areas, which are the ones that don't contribute as much. And it really shows, because we made multiple upgrades without hardly getting anywhere. And everybody else overtook us in the areas where we actually were strong. So we've gone back into those. We have a new underfloor, rear wing, front wing on the way, and hopefully those will get us back near the top of the grid in those three components once again. And then we can return our focus to that weak area, because we need the full package at some point. If we're going to win a championship, we need the full package and not just be strong on a few tracks. Boy, entering the summer break, another round of upgrades for everybody else has brought us right back down near the bottom of the grid. So where we started the season so well, my oh my, this is the monthly car development report. The top speed acceleration, which is what we've focused on so much, is still very much near the back of the grid. The DRS a little bit better off, but still very much at the back of the grid. And then that car performance in the cornering, that is where we were number 113 and 111, something like that, when it came to dirty air and regular. Out of 6 categories, we were first in, I believe, 5 of them, and very close on the 6th. Now we find ourselves 13th, 13th, 11th, 15th, 13th, 13th. We're not in the top 10 in any of them. That's how far we have fallen. Those new upgrades may not get us back to the top at this rate, because we're seeing the field continue to get better and better as we're waiting for those upgrades, which means we might only find ourselves, 5th and 6th or worse. Things have gotten bad enough lately where our qualifying position's been dropping further and further. I keep using the Q3 guarantee incentives, and recently we're not succeeding on those in the last 2 out of 3 races or something along those lines. And based on where the car is right now, I don't think we're going to get out of Q2. Therefore, I'm going to back off on those. But the finished position of 10th or greater, I do think we can manage to get at least one car in the points. So we'll keep that one going as we enter a new phase with it, by the way. And it was Spa a year ago where we had our first ever 1-2 finish, and our only 1-2 finish that we've had so far. And of course, Albin had that thing in the bag late on, spun, Pourchaire went around. Albin got going again and managed to hang on to P2 with Verstappen and Perez closing fast, Hamilton closing fast, and if you remember the chaos of that race, that was one of those wet races with variable conditions where it was drying out at the end, and we got the timing just right. We were on the right compound at the right time, put us in the right place, and the only one who looked like they had managed to do so better was the Ferrari, but as you can see, the Ferrari is not even in the top 12 at all. Leclerc, who was leading the race very late on, finished in P14, and that's because they did not make the last change when we did. Otherwise, we were set for kind of a P2, P3 scenario, maybe P2, P4, I think, something along those lines, and then, that timing of them staying out and being way off the pace and us pushing to get past because the others, the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, had all caught up behind that at the same time, and it was a matter of when the pass was made that made the difference down the stretch. And like Albin spinning, Albin could have easily finished 6th or 7th place in that race, but he spun after he had driven a ways away from Leclerc and before others had themselves gotten past. Pourchaire, I think, was the only other one that had actually passed Leclerc by that point.
Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. This circuit was built in 1991, and even though its length was halved in 1979, the Belgian Grand Prix is still one of the longest, fastest, and most magical races on the F1 calendar. Spa-Francorchamps is famous for its long straights and fast corners. Drag efficiency will make all the difference here as drivers zoom through the famous sequence of Eau Rouge leading up into Raidillon. But a twisty middle sector keeps things tricky down on the track. We're about halfway through the season now, and there's still plenty of time for everything to change. All eyes are on the teams and how they tackle the rest of the year. The competition is on.
With a dry race ahead of us, I don't see any reason to believe that we would replicate what we did a year ago. Therefore, just getting in the points is going to be our ultimate target this time. With such a long track, there is no getting banker laps, and a whole slew of cars have pulled out right in front of us, which means we're not going to get a chance at a third run with the length of the track, and guaranteed we just lost a ton of time as we had half a dozen cars get in our way. I think if we were to try to go back out right now, we'd really be in danger of not getting our final lap in. But you know what? We're going to be towards the back end of the field anyway if we do nothing. So I think we're gonna stick with it and give it another shot. It's just risky. Going out immediately. There's still 10.5 minutes left. We might get that second lap in and get a better time. We are way down the order though after getting blocked by half a dozen guys. Albin might have had one car at the start of the lap in front of him. Pourchaire definitely got a better lap in. And that's a better time than expected, just half a second down, and we're going to get back in time to be ready for a final run, which should see us get out hopefully of Q1. I do not think we're going to see Q3, even if we are 7th and 8th right now. Alright, we are taking a little bit of a risk here by running the U set. This will be the third flying lap on this set of tires, all in Q1. But after such a good lap time, both cars in the top 10, which was unexpected, I have faith that we can put in a time good enough, even if we don't improve or don't improve by much. We don't improve, but we do have enough, and we are out of Q1. So we did save the set of tires. That's good. So we have a shorter window in Q2. The time gets less and less, so if we were to try to pull 3 laps, I'm not sure we're going to make it. And we once again have cars pulling out in front of us. Pourchaire gets around Hamilton without an issue, but both cars caught up in traffic. Pourchaire, you could see, was definitely held up. Albin was definitely held up by Gasly, and it's going to be a pretty poor time. You can see over a second difference just between the pair. Traffic is compromised. It looks like at least 4 of us so far. And we're already down to 8.5 minutes. 2 minutes less than where we were last time, which means we're going to have to make just one additional run here. Alright, so we're going to be the last 2 going. It's going to give us a bit of an advantage here on this run. And even after being slowed up, Pourchaire has still managed to avoid the bubble. But we're going to see a lot of guys with improved times. I mean, you know,
Okay, there's a big crash.
We have a crash. We have a crash. It is a Red Bull. Verstappen has crashed out, but he's fastest. So he's going to end up seeing Q3 anyway, and knowing this game, he's going to be out there in Q3 running. Ricardo, Gasly both improve. So we are definitely going to have to improve our time. Schumacher might have been involved in what happened with Verstappen just based on the timing. No, he didn't improve. Pourchaire, good enough for P9. And Albon will need to do something similar. Good enough for P10. And we just get out of Q2. Second down on Verstappen, who didn't even finish his lap. Alright, so as we're going out for for Q3, our first run, it looks like there's a decent chance of rain coming quite soon. And a lot of the cars headed out before I even had a chance to click the button. We are always the first ones out. This time, they were already on the go before I even could think about it. Okay, Verstappen is out, so Verstappen will not run Q3, so I didn't expect that, but he is out. They can retrieve the car, and the rain is already starting to fall. It's coming sooner rather than later, but no track accumulation just yet in terms of water on the track. It's maybe just sprinkling or something. Of course, we don't have the fresh set. I've gone for the used set on the first run. So we'll see how compromised we are. At the very least, we're going to be P8, P9. And I'm not sure if everyone is out here or not right now. I think there's 4 runners ahead of me. 5 runners ahead of me. I would imagine we're probably going to be the last 2 of the group, just based on what we saw from Q2 and the fact that we've got the used set while everybody else is out on the fresh set right now. Normally that works out for us, but if that rain does come, then it obviously would not work out today. Oh, here comes the rain. Just at the end of the lap. This could compromise the Alpine behind us. If Ocon is slow at the end of his lap, it's because of the weather. Yeah, you can see we're slowing down. We're further and further back than what we were. Will it compromise Ocon enough? No. No, it does not. He's still ahead of us anyway. And that track is already too wet. We're not going to get another run in. So that's going to do it, folks. Pourchaire is going to start P8. Albon is going to start P9 for the race ahead. But multiple cars have penalties. There were 4 of them in this Q3. Verstappen was already carrying the penalties, so he's going to be even further down the road.
Race day has arrived and the time has come for these drivers to fight it out wheel to wheel.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. This weekend, Red Bull displayed real promise during qualifying, but will they fulfill that potential by the time they reach the checkered flag? And the sky is looking grey and cloudy today. An effective tyre strategy could prove very valuable as the race plays out.
Well, no one can ever predict what will happen at Spa-Francorchamps, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be eventful.
Underfueling at Spa is harder to do than other tracks, and that's just simply the length of the track, the length of the lap. underfueling by 1 lap is like underfueling by 2 laps at other tracks, which means conserving would be a necessity. But it also means, and if you have not tested this yourself, there is a significant pace difference when in practice. If you have cars that have the same parts on them, run the same method in terms of how aggressive fuel saving, right? Keep everything the same, running the same tire compound, and like I have, where I've got both drivers with that same pace. When you go out running, if you underfuel one of them by 1 lap compared to the other, where their times are almost identical when they're running the same, you'll clearly see that there's a tenth and a half difference in their lap times consistently. You underfuel by a couple laps, it's more pronounced, it's more noticeable, it's a quarter of a second. So 1 lap of fuel can make a tenth of a second per lap difference in the car. Now eventually you have to account for it, you have to deal with it, but it does make you faster. And when you're a little bit slower, it's a good way to help keep up. That first season, we had a hard time keeping up, and we never underfueled. Second season, we've underfueled a lot. We still have a car that's off the pace, yet we're keeping up better. Just managing fuel becomes a trickier thing to do, and I think it's going to be a tricky thing to do today, just because 1 lap worth of fuel here is more than it is elsewhere. So it's more of a deficit to cover up, or to recover over the course of this race. One stopper, medium to hard. Thanks to those penalties, we have moved up the grid a bit. Porsche starting from P5, which is pretty dang good, all things considered, where you would expect us to be. Where, I didn't think we'd be competing for points today, and we're on the grid at 5th and 7th. We've got faster cars behind us, though, so keeping 5th and 7th is probably going to be harder than moving up, especially with a dry race.
A somewhat overcast day for the drivers, who've now taken position on the grid. Looking now at the Williams. They're in the front half of the pack, so there's plenty of potential for them. And then we've got Alex Albon. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. The teams are ready to go. You can hear the excitement in the crowd here at the Belgian Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
And as we get the race underway, another thing to think about, another advantage to underfueling. If you have too much fuel and you push harder to make overtakes, turning the engine up versus turning the engine down, or even just running neutral throughout a race. The difference in those two
Red Bull
things,
moved up.
as we're already getting beaten by Perez, who's also carrying a penalty, so both Red Bulls, and we're looking at Red Bull Verstappen all the way to the back of the grid with his penalties. I'm not sure he was going to go that far back, but maybe after only qualifying P10, might have taken on additional penalties to go straight to the back instead of just back a handful of positions. But we are P6, P7, and Porsche, no idea why he would intentionally go wide there, as we are not in a position to do anything of use. But I feel
If you want to increase lift and coast.
we're going to need to settle in much sooner than we did in other races. So P6, P7 is where we're settling in. And we're now aiming for the long run early on. But back to the advantage of going light. You go heavy, you have to drive aggressive. You go aggressive, you're putting extra wear and tear on the engine. If you are having to go neutral and sometimes light to conserve, you are conserving the components, meaning the overall wear and tear on your major components, your major car components, it's going to be less. So not only are you quicker on the lap to lap to lap to lap, and you could still as long as you don't run fuel by too much, you can still turn it up when you need to try to make an overtake. It doesn't allow you to be as aggressive for as long, but it has its advantages. So managing fuel is absolutely a thing. And if you know the sport, that's what they do in real life all the time. They are always under-fueled, knowing that it's better in so many ways. The lap-by-lap advantage by being lighter is such that it makes sense on the overall pace over the course of the race. But then that secondary factor here on lap 2 is we still got P6, P7, and Albin is struggling to keep up right now at DRS. I have to kind of push on just to keep in DRS range. Have to keep an eye on those gaps to make sure that we do stay within that DRS range. Perez is already up to P3 by the way, and has the fastest lap, so him beating us from P6 was not anything more than just a huge pace advantage that the Red Bull has here. Though Verstappen has not gone forward, he's actually in last place right now. And we did stay close enough to get DRS, but with DRS also ahead of us, they closed up. Leclerc closed right up on Ocon, and we actually lost some ground as he's got a better DRS effect than what we have, and he had space to actually go forward. Ricardo is the first one to lose the train. Two McLarens way down in 16th, 17th. That's surprising. And there you go. We are starting to see gaps forming. Trains are emerging for a little bit there. It was looking like everyone was kind of run together, and that no one had enough of a pace advantage to get away from others. But that is not the case now. Leclerc is over a second behind Perez, but now that he's ahead of Ocon, I feel like he's going to have enough pace to close that up. And for the time being, it looks like he has. Okay, so over 2 kilograms to save, and 39 laps to do so. That's going to be the dangerous part. Gasly is more than a second behind, so we could be leaving him behind, which is going to be beautiful for our race if we are in such a state that we have even Leclerc, who's struggling to keep up with Perez. If we have a 4-car train and we're at the back end of it, we're competing with those guys. Gasly somehow has just flown. He went from 1.5 seconds down to just 7/10. So never mind getting away from him, but we are getting away from Hamilton, Magnussen, Ricardo, that group behind. Allows us to stay up a bit closer, and Gasly does not get the DRS this time. He is 1.5 behind. And with DRS, Ocon gets back around, but I'm loving the idea of a 4-car train pulling away from Gasly, pulling away from the followers behind, and opening this race up with us being, keeping up with some faster cars and getting away from cars that have similar or better pace than we actually have. It's going to speed things up for a while. It looks like we are, very much settling in. I do not see us conserving fuel, though. In fact, Albin is worse off than he was. He's at negative 2.3. He was negative 2.2 a couple laps ago. Now, that is very worrying. Yes, Ocon. So Leclerc was with us. Ocon. Now it's just us and Ocon. And Pourchaire has gone around Ocon already. That DRS advantage not being the front car. Those two were just swapping with each other. And finally we find ourselves in the mix. And Leclerc is now heading up that third train. And Gasly first to stop. Whoa, a bunch of cars stopping. Those guys must have been on the soft compound. Yeah, there's still 4 more out there on the soft. Now, Ocon's chomping at the bit to get past us. He is definitely quicker than we are, but not such a significant pace advantage that he can just simply fly by us. And here goes Ocon on past. Maybe. He's got us to the inside. Albin just closing things up. Was light on the field there for quite a while, but we've got him a lot closer now to where he needs to be at the end of the race.
Alpine just advanced.
So Ocon does go through Pourchaire. Let's go ahead and conserve a little bit for him. Just a couple laps away from and then multiple cars have crashed. Virtual or full safety car coming out.
Okay, it's a safety car.
Safety car. We're going to get the free stop. We're going to get the free stop. We are going to double stack.
Yes.
We are going to double stack here with safety car coming out. Alright, so we will double stack. The free pit stop is going to be worth it. Russell has picked up a penalty. I didn't see the crash. I think I missed that one in thinking about our own strategy here. Alright, and we dive off into pit road. It looks like every front runner, yes, all of the front runners have. That's 5 cars into the pits. Alonso's going to possibly inherit the lead. He's the one car who should definitely come out ahead of us, but otherwise, people are pretty well positioned at the front of the field, all going in the pits. Okay, Pourchaire is already back out, 2.68 for his stop, and Albin doesn't lose a position there, possibly based on where we come back out at, but Pourchaire is going to come back out in P5, Albin's going to come back out in P6, so no loss for either. And we now have the fresh compound, so the advantage that those behind us may have had by trying to undercut. And oh no, Russell picks up a penalty after taking out Hamilton. So the two Mercedes come together. And the field isn't even fully bunched up yet, and we are going back to racing soon. So that's actually potentially a good thing for us. So we're getting a little more fuel saving in before we go racing. At this point, it looks like Russell's going to be the only one who doesn't catch up, which is going to be quite harsh.
No
Short safety car period.
Control line.
Alright, and we are back racing here on lap 20 of 44. Our pit stop is done. Let's see how well the field stays bunched up this time. Perez is now the race leader in the fastest car. Can we keep up with the 3 ahead of us? We know we can keep up with Ocon. Alright, so that's P4 and P6 now, with Pourchaire ahead of Ocon, and Alonso already 2 seconds back on the front 2. Oh, and Albin runs wide and falls back to last. He's going to go to last place. He's just going to sit there and wait for every single car to go by to rejoin.
Now watch this. Here's the moments involving Albon.
So it started with the Ferrari. It goes from P6 to P19 by running wide and staying on the side. And meanwhile, the Ferrari is not in last place. Leclerc rejoined in 13th. He found a gap. We couldn't. But Pourchaire has closed back up, so it's... It's a 5-car train. Unfortunately, Pourchaire is towards the front end of it, which means he's at risk of going backwards, especially when At least two of those guys are quite a bit faster than we are. So Vettel has overtaken Perez thanks to DRS, but those two have pulled very far away. It's already 3 seconds to Alonso, and we can't even get around Alonso. Albon now just a tenth of a second behind Stroll. Let's see what he can do. We didn't get him this time, but the DRS brought him right up on Stroll. Alright, still tucked in behind, but we're going to go aggressive and overtake. We're going to have the DRS.
Oh, they've run wide!
See, we're already... Ooh, Alonso runs wide. That's going to put poor Cher... No. Albon a lap later, 2.4 ahead and pulling away quite quickly. We've already been overtaken. That's okay.
A position gained
We should
for
have
Alfa
DRS.
Romeo.
And we do. Does that put us back ahead? It does. Verstappen has slowly made his way through, by the way. He's gotten around Sainz, he's gotten around Ocon, and is now just behind Alonso. And Verstappen has gone through. Verstappen has gone through. He is now leading this train. That puts us in second
Red Bull
position.
gained a place.
And that's okay. I think that's a good place to be. Especially when he's going to have some heavy tire wear late on. You can see we nearly overtook him without doing anything. And this is also going to allow us to finally conserve and get that last half kilogram of fuel that we need. Albon runs wide again. In the same corner. That was the same corner that he ran wide before. And look who is back to within a second.
Let's
In fact, we're
reduce.
continuing to,
Close.
like, we're not getting
Yeah,
back up to
copy.
speed here. So we just lost 4 seconds.
fuel,
That
so
was
be
a
mindful of that.
major run wide scenario. Poor Cher. Following Alonso is one thing. Following Verstappen is another. We've lost 0.8 of a second already, and there's a big problem, and something just happened. Somebody spun out. It is Verstappen.
Someone spun out. Let's see what
I
happened
thought it
there.
was us for a second.
We're just watching the
I
Red
thought
Bull.
it was us. Coming out of the chicane. Final
They
turn.
lose it.
Neutral.
You can afford to drop back.
Fuel is almost right. 0.1.
Yep, copy.
But now we're back to the front of this train, and Verstappen is 3.5 seconds behind. So all of a sudden we find ourselves leading the train once again, but with fuel not yet fixed. Now it's a very different scenario. And Sainz is not making his way through this, so for whatever reason he does not have a pace advantage. But Leclerc hasn't made his way back through the field either. He's still only P14. I thought he was P13 last I saw.
Seems to have been a lockup.
Magnussen with the lockup, and now Albon's a bit closer to him. That's going to make him a sitting duck, easier target. Could still very well get the overtake done on him. But as for poor Cher, it's going to be where that has to get done. I mean, Albon still hasn't gotten fuel right. He's been on 0.1 for a while. And in trouble here. We stay ahead of him. And I wouldn't mind
Overtake
dropping to
is
P2.
available.
Or not P2, P4 in this case. P2 in the train. 10 seconds behind Vettel and Perez as those two continue to swap. It's amazing that Vettel has that kind of pace. Okay, and we are now, well, I was just about to say we are now comfortably
We won't
at
leave court,
0.3, but no, we're not. We're still 0.4. Yeah, Verstappen already back in DRS range. That did not take long. That did not take get the overall. How is the tire wear situation though? We are still in the high 60s. Verstappen only in the high 50s, so he's going to lose pace in the final laps. So is Gasly. Guan Yu Zhou also in trouble in the near future. Norris and Russell soon to be in trouble, and Magnussen might get in trouble. He's going to have a still decent chance of moving forward. Best tire situation outside of the top 11. Oh no! Alonso, you mother...
Now we see the Williams here.
Alonso locks up.
And there's the collision. It's caused absolute
Destroys
carnage.
Pourchaire's race. Please still be in the race. Please be able to continue on.
The team
He's
are
still in the
really
points
disappointed
if
with
he's
that.
able to continue on
Let's
quickly.
hope it doesn't set them back too badly. Now we see the Williams here.
Okay, you've already shown it. You don't need to show it again. Pourchaire resumes the race from P6. Minor wing damage. 25% tires. He's got a pit. Coming out with his teammate. Oh my gosh, there's Magnussen. Are you kidding me? That's how far down we are. Alonso, one of the crashiest drivers on the grid. I know he is super popular, but the guy is reckless. And then blames everybody else every single time. So, P16 for Albon, he has recovered 2 positions, and all of this just simply running wide. In the case of Pourchaire,
So he's not really coming down.
Alonso has
Yeah,
taken him out. Oh, Albon, just barely over a second behind, by the way. And somehow Magnussen is going back around him.
Push hard. Happy to push hard.
Is Albon
Yeah,
going to end up
sure.
getting close enough thanks to his teammate to also contest with those guys here at the end? Lock up Pourchaire.
We can take a look now. Now we see the Williams here.
Oh my goodness. Now remember, he's
There's
got a
the
damaged
collision.
car.
It's caused
Front wing,
absolute
back
carnage.
wing, suspension, all damaged.
And that was a...
Is it driver error? Is it a messed up car? Okay, fuel's right.
Okay, it's a
Oh,
safety car.
brought out the safety car.
Positive on the Delta. Yep,
Is the
copy.
race going to finish under safety car, or is it going to come back together? I don't know if the track position for Albon's going to be
Sounds like
worth it
there's
from
been a
P13 going backwards. Russell? That's not who he hit, is it? Russell's also out. And Norris is carrying a penalty, even though we hit him. Was he trying to rejoin the track and hit Russell as well? So that is down to last. But with the field bunching up, hopefully, I'm guessing that they're going to go green again this lap. So Vettel leads from Perez. We are racing.
Just
Doesn't
easy
look like it
overtake.
right now. We are
Okay.
so slow here at the back end.
And this is the last lap.
Final lap of the race. This is
Yes.
it. So no DRS. No DRS to help. Albon is well placed in 13th. Right behind Schumacher. Can he get him down the straight? is up beside him. Pourchaire, maybe because of the damage, is way off the pace. Pourchaire is well behind, 2.5 seconds down. It looks like he's 3 seconds down now. He is not catching, so Pourchaire is not going to move up. But Albin does get P12. And we get back into the points. We have a full second to go to catch Leclerc, as Schumacher was that slow. Pourchaire now 4.5 seconds back. Okay, just conserve.
We want to leave court, please.
So, cruise mode for Pourchaire. Damaged car, way off the pace. Albin closes up to a second behind Leclerc, but that's such a difficult overtake, and he needs to get 2 of them done. And we are down to really just a few turns to go. And just a couple. That one's not much of a turn, it's flat out. As is this. Deploy. Final turn. No mistakes from anyone. We close right up on him, but it's too late. That's it. P12. And a disastrous P17. Pourchaire was carrying damage from Alonso hitting him. Did that impact his crash? At least we kind of got the double wipeout. Oh boy. Albin with the individual mistake. Pourchaire wiped out by somebody else, carrying damage, then makes his individual mistake following that one. And we end up with a terrible day on what was actually looking like a really good day. I thought P9, P10 was going to be what we were in for. I don't know how we're excited about finishing P12. That was a terrible day, folks. Terrible day. Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about. Vettel hung on for the win, by the way. Perez finishes P2, so the AlphaTauri beating the Red Bull. Albin's still second in the points. Pourchaire falls to 4th. No points for either. Rough day. Red Bull picking up 29 points. Open up a healthy gap, and that gap behind is down to 25, down to a race victory. McLaren quite a ways back and only scoring 6 points, so at least we're okay there. But second place in jeopardy following that one, and that's going to do it for this one. Luckily, we do have some upgrades coming to the car soon. We're going to need them. We were relatively competitive today, all things considered. It just didn't work out in the end. Bad timing for one one minor mistake that should have cost us 2 seconds, cost us, the entirety of our grid position going to last, with Albin having to sit on the side and waiting to rejoin. Others you see all the time, they run wide and they lose a couple tenths. For him, it was where, how, and when that happened that cost him everything. And then Pourchaire, you could absolutely point the finger at Alonso and the damage that was there, but then he made his own mistake, close it up on the rear and lock it up. That's going to do it for this one, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.